coming to the Wings Award. We've got a little ceremony in honor of Bill. We also, after the presentation is done, we have charcuterie boards over there and drinks for some light refreshments when everybody's done. First off, we're going to have Jim Hodgson, our executive director, come in. Here you go.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. Just leave your mic. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 7th annual Wings Award. We've been doing this now for a few years to recognize local people who have done things significant to preserving aviation history here in North Texas. We started in 2015, and you've got a list of some of the folks on your program. And today we're going to induct Bill into this group. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of information about why we're doing this today on a cold, windy January day. And January 12th of 1911 was the day of first flight here. That took place down by Montgomery Plaza. And it was a day just like today, cold and windy. And about 50,000 people showed up to watch the event that was going to take place by a group called the International Aviators. John B. Moissant had put together people from all over Europe and the United States, and they were traveling the country. They were literally a flying circus at that point in time. They weren't even barnstormers yet. It was a flying circus. And they went around the country primarily, as John Moissant used to say, to help educate the community and find people who could help solve problems. Because at that point in time in 1911, there were a lot of problems in aviation. They didn't even have airports or runways at that point in time. So, but they did appear here on January 12th, and in the afternoon, a gentleman named Roland Garros, who was a Frenchman, a world-renowned French aviator at the time. In the books, you will hear him say, "I think I will fly," and everybody else said, "No, don't. The weather's too bad," and all that kind of stuff. Actually, what he said was, "If we're going to get paid, I think I will fly," because they had been brought here to put on a flight demonstration. So that was down at Montgomery Plaza, and this is very appropriate, especially where Bill Morris is concerned, because where I first met Bill was when he was working with the Fort Worth Air and Space Museum Foundation, and he and I got together and we were looking at putting together a commemoration for 2011 that would be the centennial anniversary throughout the year. And the first thing we were looking at was the first flight, because we knew it had taken place in January, but we didn't exactly know where it was. And so the Thanksgiving of 10, it was Bill and I and Brother Bob, because this is where I first learned about Brother Bob. Well, we were trying to track down over Thanksgiving weekend where the first flight had actually taken place. We knew it had been in a driving park, which for most of us, that's really a racetrack, but it was called a driving park because that's what they called them on the East Coast. And we found a place that had a driving park, and it was up off Samuels Avenue. There had been a driving park up there. And we thought, well, maybe that's it. But then as we looked around, it didn't fit other descriptions like railroads and things like that. And with the help of Bob and Bill and I over that weekend, we discovered where First Flight Park now is, but where that first flight had actually taken place. If you go over to Montgomery Plaza and you go over by Bed Bath & Beyond, that's pretty much where the airplanes actually flew. But that was instrumental because Bill and I went from there and decided that that place had to be commemorated because that was the beginning of aviation here. And that falls right in line with John B. Moissant that said, who knows from what little hamlet somebody's going to come along and come up with solutions to some of the aviation problems. And this area in North Texas has certainly done that. We're world renowned now for the aviation developments that have taken place here. So Bill and I found a little plot of land that was across the street from Montgomery Plaza that was owned by the city, and it turns out the city had never designated it as a park or named it because there was a water line that went underneath. But it had been designated in 1943, I think it was, to be a city park. So Bill and I were sitting out there one day looking at how this whole thing laid out and how the airplanes probably flew and everything, and he said, you know what, we need to get this designated as First Flight Park. And so now today you can go to First Flight Park, you can see the historic marker that Bill helped write, and we got through the Texas Historical Commission, and a replica of the Blériot. So that one dream came true, and that was one of the first times that Bill and I got to work together, and there was more and more of that ever since then. He loved to do research, as all of you probably know, and in addition to research, he loved the F-16. and we have that here. So when we finally got to the point where we'd tracked down an F-16 and we're willing to bring it back here and get it for restoration, it was like Bill was like a kid in a candy store. It was Christmas Day when the airplane showed up. But there is so much that he's done in terms of digging up historical facts and the World War I centennial, finding all of the buried World War I veterans here in the area and things like that, that he's really left his mark on aviation and aerospace and the history and preservation of the history here. He had a famous saying, you know, it was all the time, he said, people don't care, and the argument that I had with him is people don't know to care. And so it's our job to make people aware of all of these wonderful things that took place. And so Bill finally, towards the end of his life, came up with this saying that I've used a number of times. I used it as a historic preservation meeting the other night, was that if it doesn't move, it doesn't matter here. Well, Bill showed us that things matter here in terms of aviation development and aerospace and the education and how it's gone through. So it's only appropriate that we add Bill to the list of Wings Awards people who have made a significant impact towards aviation heritage and preservation here. And so with that, I'd like to ask his brother and his two sons, Chris and Anders, if they'd come up, please. So we have one plaque for each of them, and it says the 2022 Wings Award presented to Mr. William W. Morris in recognition of his valuable leadership in the restoration of General Dynamics YF-16 prototype number 2 for display in Fort Worth, and his contributions involving historic aviation research and education in North Texas.
Wow.
Chris, there's yours.
Thank you very
Congratulations. Ander? And Bob.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Now, if any of you would like to say anything, hold on here. Let me get the mic.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, who'd like to talk?
Hi. I imagine I wasn't told this was going out across the planet until a few minutes ago, so I literally have nothing planned other than the things Jim mentioned about Bill are true. He loved research, he loved knowing stuff, and being able to share that knowledge with anyone who would want to listen about, in particular, flight and aviation and where we've been so we can get somewhere else was a passion of his. And I'm very grateful that he found this place. And everyone here, he spoke highly of it to me on a regular basis. This was the big topic I always asked him about when we chat about what was going on in the world, was how are things at your museum? Are you growing? Are you getting things done? What else are you doing? And to Jim's point earlier, the F-16 was definitely the entire Sunday for him. He loved that. And I am just grateful that everyone showed up to show their appreciation and support for him in this, and that you've decided to honor him and his memory with this. And I hope that everything he's done for all of you and for this museum in the past, I guess, 10 years will last in perpetuity. Thank you, everyone.
Ander?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah.
Adam, there you go.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for coming. This means a lot to the family. Being Bill's, as I always say, younger snotty-nosed brother, I always looked up to Bill. Bill was my mentor, so to speak. I learned a lot from Bill growing up. Bill appreciated doing lots of things. His research was a lifelong passion with him. I can remember when he was in junior high, he could tell you the name and the characteristics of every biplane that was flown by anybody in World War I. He was passionate about that. And what I want to do is thank you and the museum for the award, but I also want to thank the museum for what you do here. Museums should be an educational outreach, not a dimly lit picture on a wall with a dimly lit number 6 font sign by the side that you can't read because you're blocked from standing any closer than 5 feet to it. Museums should be where you can go touch things and talk to people that have been there and done that and learn. because that's what's going to inspire the next generation. So for Bill and for the family, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for what you do here. Please keep doing it.
Thank you, Bob. I wanted to make mention of a couple more things, and if anybody would like to speak, you're welcome to come up and speak. But you may see this model here that's in front of me with an upside-down F-16. And it's significant. It is not in air. And I know a friend of ours, Greg Zagar, is watching today. He was with the Air Force Research Lab in Rome, New York, and that's where we found this airplane. Or better yet, Ben Guttery found the airplane in Rome, New York. And what they did is they had it. Sometimes it was right side up. A lot of times it was upside down. But on this tall tower, and this is exactly what it looked like. And the intent was for them to do antenna testing, and as Greg has told me, they weren't emitting anything, they were receiving, and seeing how the receiving took place with all the different exterior loads that would be on airplanes, and see how the interference took place on these. And so this was, the airplane is probably the longest serving F-16 ever. It was the YF-16, which was a prototype. It was somewhat different than the way you see it here, because they modified it in New York so it would be the same kind of an image of a production airplane. But it's been working up until two years ago. So this airplane worked for you and I and was on the job for 42 years. So that makes it the longest serving F-16 ever. So I just wanted y'all to know about this, because it looks a little unusual with an airplane upside down on a stand. So is there anybody else who'd like to say anything? Ben. Ben Guttery is our collection manager.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ben Guttery, and I think I know all of you, or just about all of you. A few family members I may not know quite as well. But anyway, welcome. Glad y'all are here. I just had a little funny story to tell about Bill. I was the other guy working out in the archives area and kind of tucking stuff away into boxes and making sure we had good records of it and had a good control of it. And Bill and I had a discussion one day about the F-16, and I had no idea Bill had any connection with the F-16. He and I arrived here about the same time and didn't talk our histories too much, but eventually got to know each other pretty well. And I noticed the museum didn't have a lot of F-16 stuff or an F-16, and so I asked Bill, don't you think we need to be thinking about getting one of those and maybe building some collections? And he said, no, that airplane's just not old enough. And it was always so kind of a joke between us that airplane, for the longest time, he said wasn't old enough. And then I found out what he did with the F-16 later on, and it got to be even more of a joke between us. But he certainly contributed to our efforts to make a mark with that airplane in the museum world, and does such a great job in keeping that iconic and important airplane alive in this community. So I just wanted to pass that along. It was a fun story. It still makes me smile.
Thank you, Ben. Ben is also one of our Wings Awards recipients for finding the YF-16, and we also have a representative here from Benny Keith, Craig Woodcook. We recognized Benny Keith a few years also because of what he did in helping bring aviation here during the First World War. So if someone has any questions about anything, or anybody else would like to make comments, we can entertain that now. Otherwise, again, we'd like to thank you for being here. It wasn't our plan to be indoors today. We thought we'd be outside, but this has happened to us before. January gets cold and windy. So we have some refreshments. Please join us with the refreshments and meet the rest of the people here, and we'll share our lives with you. So thank you again for coming, and this is a real honor to be able to represent Bill today. And we do have some small plaques out that if you want to take a look and see who the other people are that we've recognized over the last 7 years, we have those out for you. So once again, thanks for being here today, and thanks to Bill.